Thank you for joining us for The Sky Above, where we'll tell you everything happening in the sky this upcoming month so you can plan ahead and know when to look up. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Here's what is heading your way right now on this November episode. We are in the heart of 4 back-to-back supermoons. We'll tell you when the November full moon peaks and what makes this one different from others. Plus, if we can find a clear November night, a spectacular meteor shower is approaching when you have the best chance of viewing the meteor shower. And later on, roving on Mars. We'll talk about Mars exploration and where it is focused right now. A lot to get to today. I am your host, meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. I am joined as always by NASA Solar System Ambassador Keith Crum, also member of the Seattle Astronomical Society. Keith, thank you as always for being here with us this month.
Thank you, Leah. Great to be here.
All right, let's start where we always do.
Yep.
The November full moon. Let's talk timeline first.
Timeline first.
When will it appear full?
November 4th and 5th, it's between 99% either side, and specifically at 100% at 5 a.m.
Yeah, just after 5 a.m. on the 5th.
On the 5th.
So that means it's the night of the 4th, but the morning of the 5th.
Right.
But it'll be gorgeous. I mean, typically a couple days around that as well, too.
It's the beaver moon.
And let's talk about the name, the beaver moon.
Yeah. Beaver moon, trappers set traps before the freeze for beaver. It's also known as the frost moon, the freezing moon, and Lakota. Usually it's very poetic. This one is deer rutting moon from the Lakota tribe. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Freezing, frost, it makes a lot of sense to me. Tis the season.
Yep.
Things are getting cold out there. Okay, and what I love about this, we've been talking about this, but we're right in the heart of it. We are in the middle of a series of 4 supermoons, October, November, December, and then you pointed out January as well. Let's refresh the difference between a supermoon versus a regular moon.
Well, a supermoon is a moon that's at perigee, which means it's closest to the Earth and full at the same time. So the moon runs in an elliptical orbit, somewhere between 225,000 miles and 250,000 miles, roughly. And it is about 7% bigger and about 30% brighter. The one on October 4th was really bright.
Yeah.
Really bright.
And that was the first one. So October was the first of 4.
Right.
And we now get to enjoy them through January. So what a fun thing to get to look forward to the next couple of months. And I love that we're still at the beginning of it. So November, December 2025, and then January of 2026. And then after that, we will not see another supermoon until the end of 2026, November and December. I love that.
That's it.
All right. Let's talk about our meteor shower that is going to fly through the sky this month. When will this one appear?
Well, the Leonids coming from the constellation Leo, they appear to come from the constellation Leo. They'll peak on November 16th. After midnight, pretty much 15 an hour. So, but the good news is it's a big shower, so they're going to be visible pretty much all month. So we'll look for a clear night and go out there anytime. Right around that time of November 16th was our new moon time. And that's really important because actually on the day of the new moon, the moon is up just during the daytime. So it's not at night. So it's going to be really dark around that time of the new moon.
Oh, that's perfect.
Great time to go out and look for the Leonids, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And we talk about that every month. You want that dark sky.
Dark sky.
So that's going to be best for not just meteor showers, but any sky gazing that you do. You want the new moon. So there we go. Mid-teens and into the 20s of November will be best for that. Okay, and look east.
Look east, let your eyes adjust to the night sky. It takes 20 or 30 minutes. Use a red light, flashlight if you have one, or there's one on your phone.
I was going to say, did you bring one? Can we see yours?
Look at this one.
That's the one you gave me.
That's the one I gave you, yeah.
The red light?
That's good.
Can you see it, everybody?
Yeah, that works.
And you have a hat, you have your phone.
I have a phone, yeah. I have a clunky flashlight you can lay on a table like that, and it Works great.
And the red light is for your eyes
Yeah,
and for
your
the
eyes.
sake of adjusting to
Yeah.
the darkness.
Your eyes are still sensitive to red light, but as long as they keep it dim enough, it helps be able to see things like the Leonids.
All right, I love it. And especially if you're going out to a star party, Seattle Astronomical
Yep.
Society hosts them.
Yep.
You don't want to be that person who comes out with a flashlight or headlights.
Yeah, or takes a flash picture.
Not a flash picture.
No flash picture.
I love it. Okay, so meteor shower. Let's talk about star clusters that are visible this month. You want to use binoculars with these ones, though?
Yeah. Especially the Pleiades. Pleiades is getting in more. You can see it better in the winter. It's more of a winter thing. The Pleiades is the Seven Sisters, also known as Subaru.
Okay.
If you notice the emblem on the car,
Oh.
it shows 6 stars. But you can count anywhere from, I don't know, 6 or 7. They call it the Seven Sisters. Sometimes I can find 9 or 10 stars in that cluster.
Wow.
But it's a beautiful cluster. It's quite large in the sky. If you put the moon next to it, it would be bigger than the moon.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's large in the sky. You can see it with your naked eye.
Okay.
Especially using averted vision.
Okay.
Averted vision. Looking out of the side of your eye.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if you look slightly out of the side of your eye, but focus your attention, focus this way, but focus your attention to the side.
Okay.
It'll pop.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, I've
it
never
pops.
heard that.
The light coming in from the side of your eye is more sensitive to these dim lights, like Pleiades.
Wow, okay, and let's talk about time and location. So Pleiades look to the east.
East, yep.
Right around 9 p.m.
Yep.
mid-month. And then, of
Mid-month.
course, we have our dark sky.
Yep.
So that's helpful.
Great time.
And then say it for me,
Nearby Hyades.
The Hyades.
Another cluster. It is considered an open cluster as opposed to a globular cluster, which we can talk about another time. But it's open cluster means that they're not all close together, but kind of spread out. Both of these are considered open clusters.
All right. Okay, sounds great. Okay, so it might be fall, but we can still see the summer triangle.
Yes.
These are 3 stars that make a triangle, but one of them is extra special.
Yes, one of them is extra special. That's Vega. So Vega is, we're just getting to the end of the season on the summer triangle. You can still see it. It's lower in the sky. Vega was once upon a time was our North Star.
Wow.
So, and it will be again. We're right in about the middle of the cycle. The Earth wobbles on its axis a little bit based on what the sun and the moon, how the sun and the moon move the Earth around. So it kind of wobbles like a top.
Okay.
And now it's pointed toward Polaris, of course, right? The North Star. But in about 12,000 years, it will have moved all the way around to Vega. It'll be pointed at Vega instead.
Wow. Let's talk about planets. We have a couple planets that are going to be shining bright this month. Let's see, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus, correct?
Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus.
Okay. How do we tell them apart? How do we find them in the night sky? What's a good time to view them?
Great.
That was a lot, sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Saturn is really great this month again because it's very bright. It's not quite at opposition like it was from the sun, but it's still very bright. The rings are flat right now. They don't stick out from the side, but rather they're flat. I think I've said before, it looks like an arrow going straight through them.
Cool.
Straight through it. So, yeah, and I think the interesting thing that we could add about Saturn right now is that with binoculars, you can see the moon Titan.
Oh.
And there's a NASA mission to Titan coming up, launching in 2028, arriving in 2035. And it is called Dragonfly. And it's going to be a drone that does work on the moon Titan.
Wow.
So Titan has a very thick atmosphere, like a swimming pool.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. So look for Titan through binoculars.
Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. So Saturn, but then we have other planets shining bright as well.
Yep. Jupiter is up earlier now as we go later in the season, and you can check out 4 moons of Jupiter. So
Okay.
the Galilean moons.
Okay.
And Venus, early morning, the morning star, as it's known. And look for that early in the morning against a waxing crescent moon.
Okay, so look close to the moon and you'll see it.
Yeah.
All right, I love it. Okay, so we'll keep our eyes to the sky. Keith, thank you as always. This is excellent information, and now we have a lot to look forward to in the month of November.
Indeed.
Well, still ahead after the break, Mars exploration has been at the forefront of studies and research. We are going to discuss the search for signs of life on Mars and where those studies stand now. Stay with us. Welcome back. Mars is a planet that is often the center of headlines and research. Here to discuss all things Mars is our new November guest, Crystal Kaya.
Hi, Leah.
I'm
Thank you for having me.
so glad you're here with us. And Crystal, what I love about you and Keith as well, first, you're both solar system ambassadors for NASA, so a volunteer position.
Yes.
You educate the community. You also have your own side jobs, or real jobs, I should say.
Exactly.
This is a side.
Yes, side passion.
But tell me about your passion. What got you into astronomy? Where did that spark first start?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Southern California. So unlike Seattle, like ample opportunities to enjoy the night sky.
Yes,
and so I grew up with spending countless hours with my dad going into our backyard and looking up into the constellations. And that's really where it started for me, just this passion and wonder about the cosmos. You know, everything we know about it. And what was more exciting to me as a kid is everything we didn't know.
I totally agree. I think that that is the most fascinating thing about space. So, okay, so you got hooked in Southern California. And what do you do now with your time? You work to educate and you volunteer a lot of your time as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, excitement and enthusiasm about space, it's more than just a scientific endeavor. It's almost like a birthright, right? Like this is something really fundamental to the human condition. And I think it's so important for people to realize that like exploration and, you know, passion about space and astronomy, it's really for everyone. And so I love that opportunity to go out and educate and, you know, take a topic that often feels really unapproachable and make it something that's accessible to everyday folks, you know, who don't have an advanced degree in astrophysics.
Right, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I will say after just a couple months of doing this show, I feel the same, especially guests like you, guests like Keith, just talking about it all, it makes it feel so approachable and so interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for that background. Let's talk about Mars. That is the reason we are here today. Mars, I'm just so captivated by just quick 101, as we all know, fourth planet from the sun.
Correct.
It is half the size of Earth. I actually didn't realize that. Yeah. It's known as the red planet, and it is the only other planet we have sent rovers to.
That's right.
So we are studying Mars. Why is Mars such a high priority in research versus maybe other planets?
There's so much exciting stuff to talk about with Mars. You know, you can talk about it in terms of like planetary evolution and climate and all kinds of things. But I think what it really boils down to is that Mars represents one of our best opportunities to answer this fundamental human question of, are we alone in the universe, right? You know, Mars had, you know, rivers and lakes and a thicker atmosphere and a warmer climate and all of these things that we know, at least for how we understand life here on Earth, kind of to be essential for life. And, you know, if you ever look at Mars through a telescope, you can see these darker and lighter, you know, surface areas. You can see the polar ice caps. With more detailed images, you can see mountains and valleys and floodplains. Like, these are things that you could see on Earth looking at a photo of a desert, right? And so there is something just so tantalizingly familiar about Mars, right? In that if there are all these similarities and all these similarities for its past, if life evolved here, why not there?
Yeah. Okay. And we are going to talk about life on Mars in just a moment. Get you hooked there. But let's talk about the timeline of visits. And we've sent a couple rovers now at this point to Mars, starting in the 90s. What are the different missions we've gone on and what have they discovered?
Absolutely. So the history of rover exploration on Mars is really exciting. I think it's kind of a fascinating historical drama that's like unfolding through the eyes or cameras of rovers on Mars. So this all started with Sojourner in 1997 when it landed on Mars. Sojourner was this adorable little microwave oven-sized rover, you know, just like trucking along through Mars on its little wheels. And it was first and foremost kind of like a technology test, right? Like, is this a way to explore the Martian landscape? But it also had some ability to do some science as well. And Sojourner kind of, was a really important piece of this whole start to this journey and understanding Mars's wet past. And it identified rounded pebbles, for example, which indicates, water transport of some kind. And then building on all of the awesome work that little Sojourner did, came the Spirit and Opportunity twin rovers. Now, these were about the size of a golf cart, so we've kind of increased from our little microwave oven up to golf cart size. So these rovers could do a lot more and explore a lot more. But where Sojourn was really about like testing the technology and just doing some basic science, these were about digging deeper into that story of Mars's water past. And they did just that. Spirit found, material that often occurs in hot springs or around volcanic vents. And Opportunity just fortunately landed on what was likely a salty ocean shore, like millions of years ago, and identified hematite, which often occurs on Earth, like close to water. And so again, we're like building on the story of Mars's water past. And building on all of the success of those prior missions came Curiosity. Now, with Curiosity, we go up to a small SUV-sized rover, so kind of we're getting into these labs on wheels, right? Like it can do a lot more. And we built out this historical version of Mars, understanding its water history. With Curiosity, we're talking about assessing the habitability of Mars. Could microbial life have existed there? And I do want to pause. When we talk about looking for like microbial life or life on Mars, like scientists aren't expecting to find like an ancient civilization, right? We really are talking about evidence of primitive life forms like microbes and bacteria. And Curiosity did just that. In addition to building on this, water history of Mars, it also identified organic molecules. Now again, organic, when we hear organic, our brains tend to go to life, but these weren't like evidence of life. When we talk about organic molecules, I always like to, use the example of you're looking for a cake, and you find water and sugar and flour and oil. You didn't find a cake. You found ingredients to make a cake. You didn't find a cake.
That's a really good reference.
I think I'm hungry too. So it goes to show that, Curiosity found these are some of the ingredients and necessary pieces of life. But again, not proof of life. And that brings us to where we are today with Perseverance. Perseverance made it to Mars in 2021. This is the most advanced science lab ever sent to another world. SUV size, but a lot heavier than Curiosity, a lot more instruments on it. And building again, yet taking that story to the next level with Mars, it was really looking at, can we find biosignatures? What's the astrobiology angle of the history of Mars? And so the Perseverance rover had some really exciting additional capabilities from prior rovers. One of the most exciting is sample collection. So in addition to being able to core samples from rocks, Perseverance can actually store those and save them with a hopeful future return mission to be able to bring those back to Earth. Because with all the incredible science that these rovers can do, it is not the same as having it on a lab back here on Earth and with actual human minds digging in and analyzing it.
And that brings us to a very, very recent discovery. In September of this year, NASA did just announce new findings. Let's talk about these findings. I think we're seeing some of the visuals from Perseverance right now. What did we discover here in September?
Yeah, so this is so exciting. I was actually so excited about this. I had the live feed playing in the car on the way to like drop my son off at school because I didn't want to miss the announcement. So on September 10th, NASA announced that the Perseverance had imaged and cored back in 2024, but they released this kind of finding now after doing some additional analysis, that Perseverance had imaged and cored a mudstone in the Jezero crater that had textures and chemistry that were consistent with potential biosignatures. So essentially, this is possible signs of ancient microbial life. Now, that sounds so exciting, but I think it's really important to pause there and like step back and say, okay, this is very exciting, but it's potential sign of life. This is not proof of life. And I think, any good science requires us to like hold excitement and skepticism at the same time. And that's what's happening here. So really exciting finding, potential biosignatures on Mars.
So how are we going to verify?
Yeah, so to verify, that's the tricky part from Mars. So obviously from where it is, we've got images. You know, it was able to do some basic analysis on the samples that it took to be able to identify organic carbon, iron phosphate, iron sulfide. You know, these are compounds that often occur on Earth in microbially influenced oxygen poor environments. So we have all of this data, all these images, but really to take it to the next level, that sample has to get back to Earth, right?
Yep.
Perseverance has done a phenomenal job, but it has taken it about as far as it can. And the next step is really those samples have to get back here to Earth, to a laboratory with the brilliant minds here on Earth to actually analyze it. And what's so tough is that in the meantime, the answer to this question of is this a biosignature is out there lying in a sample tube on the surface of Mars, just waiting for us to find out.
And are there plans right now to go capture that?
So that's a little bit of one of those types of things that time will tell. Hopeful, but time will tell if we get to that point.
Okay. Oh my goodness. It's like knowing there's the end of a story, but you can't read the last page.
Exactly. It's so painful. And the answer is there. Like, it is lying in a test tube on the surface. This fundamental question that humans have had for probably as long as we could ask questions. And it's lying up there on the surface, just waiting for us to bring it back.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Crystal, before we wrap up with you, I have one question. We're talking about signs of life. What are your thoughts on signs of life in the great outer reaches of the solar system and beyond?
Cosmos, yes. So I think that this is a question that over time, more and more evidence has started to build a case for it being more likely than not. If you look at Earth and our history of our understanding of Earth, we've always thought we were unique. We're a little bit self-centered, right? We're special. But over time, we keep finding out we're less and less special than we thought we were, right? Like, once upon a time, we thought we might be the only solar system, right, with planets orbiting around a star. And we know that's not true, right? Now there's, 6,000 or so exoplanets that have been identified. So I think that it seems more likely than not that we're going to find out that life does exist. Now, I think the question is going to be more about, like, how complex that life is, how, you know, is there intelligent life? Like, that becomes a broader question. But I would say more likely than not, yes.
And that, like you said, is just the most fun part of astronomy.
Exactly.
Everything we don't know.
Yes. Curiosity and wonder.
Crystal, thank you so much for your time and expertise. This was so interesting, and I know we will continue to watch the headlines and see what develops from the great planet of Mars.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Leah. It was wonderful being here today.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, still ahead after the break, scientists are keeping an eye on objects that fly through space from outside of our atmosphere. We'll take a look at one new one discovered and where scientists think it came from. Stay with us. Finally today, we sometimes see things passing through our sky that are from outside of the solar system, and one brand new this year. Keith, what are we seeing?
We're seeing 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object to be identified coming through our solar system. And so it's going to be visible later in the month, and you need a big telescope to see it. I suggest maybe visible on YouTube.
Okay, and it's a comet, correct?
Yeah, it's a comet, right?
Okay, any reason to worry?
No reason to worry about it hitting Earth. The thing I would worry more about, since I just mentioned YouTube, is there's a whole bunch of crazy information out there about it. People thinking it's an alien spacecraft and so forth.
We're good.
But it's, you know, it's an interesting study to do.
All right.
But, yeah.
All right, Keith, thank you so much. Yep. Well, that does it for us on this November edition of The Sky Above. We will see you back here next month.